Who are your old school journalism heroes compared to today's? Like Walter Cronkite, the late Peter Jennings, or who? Let's start with you, Joe.
It's always been Peter Jennings.
The late Peter Jennings, and why is he your hero?
I just like the way Peter could tell a story. I like the way he had command of the anchor desk. He made it very natural. He would look down at his scripts and look back up at the viewer. It was all very, very natural. He was very smooth. He could think well on his feet. And he was very, very intelligent, and it came across that way.
What about you, Steph? Who are your old school journalism heroes?
I would say along those lines with Peter Jennings, I think he was very personable, and I think that's very important, that the person you're watching doesn't seem like an anchor man or an anchor woman. They seem like your best friend or a good friend of yours or a neighbor or somebody that you respect and you would really want to hear about the day's events from them.
What about you, Terry? Who are your old school journalism heroes?
Well, it had to be Barbara Walters. No. Actually, as far as news is concerned, I used to watch Walter Cronkite when he was on the air. David Brinkley was an excellent writer. Those are from the news point of view. I really don't have somebody from the weather point of view. I just kind of got into that, and I haven't really thought about somebody as somebody I looked up to ever since I was young. So in the news area, yeah, there's a couple of people, but in the weather area, I really just kind of played it by ear. Obviously, I guess it shows.
When covering politics, elections, or political issues, this is the formula I created. Look at the Democratic side first. Look at the Republican view second. And balance it out for the independents last. Then ask the viewers to make their own decisions on whose side to go with, Democrats, Republicans, or independents. And ask them why they went with either one. Have you ever considered that formula with your news team when covering politics?
There is no X, Y, Z, but I will say you do touch on the exact thing, and that is if we do cover something that is a Democratic issue, then we always follow with the Republican side. Independents, we kind of, if there's an independent candidate, certainly we will cover that person. But the two dominating are Republican and Democrat, and as long as they're both equally represented, we don't go with who has to be first or who has to be second. Generally, it's the best story. Right now, Democrats tend to be leading most of the newscasts, or they usually start because there's an active battle going on. The Republican side, we always follow with it, but it's not near as intriguing right now because it's John McCain basically sitting back and waiting.
Have you ever considered using that formula when you're covering politics, Steph?
I would go along with what Joe says, and also locally, a lot of times there are other elements that play into it. Say if we have live shots from two different locations, technically we may need to go to one location before we go to another location. So sometimes there's those aspects that play into it.
Another formula I created this time when covering hard news. See what we can learn from the story. See how we can think positive of the negative, and see what we can do to take action, not just know what's going on, not just know the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Have you ever considered that formula when covering today's events?
I wouldn't state it the way you stated, but we do certainly do what I would call layered coverage. We have a concept here at Fox 21 that we call 360. And that is giving you a 360 look at all the angles around a story. And so you've broken it down probably a little bit more than we actually would, but it is definitely a layered coverage. You'll have the facts first of what's going on, and then we usually try and find an understory somewhere in, whether it's a positive aspect of it, another negative angle of it, a cause and effect type of story. There's all kinds of different layers that you can find underneath the story.
Have you ever considered that using that formula I created when you're covering the day's events?
Again, I would say maybe not in so many words, but I think also within our lead story, but throughout the newscast, we try to have a good balance of positive and negative. A lot of times the beginning part of the newscast is the negative. That's a lot of the murders, fires, the sad things. But then we try to also put in happy stories. You know, we try to put in, we have A+ news that is a lot of times good things that are happening in the schools. And we try to put in positive stories also so that people don't turn off just feeling overwhelmed with all the bad news in the world. So they have a good balance of positive and negative.
And Terry, what we can learn from the weather forecast, how we can think positive and take action so we can plan ahead for the week ahead. Have you ever used those in your weather forecast?
Well, we're lucky here in Colorado because we have a lot of what most people call good weather. Plenty of sunshine, mild temperatures in the winter, warm temperatures in the summer. But I do like to put a little positive spin when we have what a lot of people consider bad weather. If we have rain, like we're expecting tonight and tomorrow, we'll talk about the fact that it's good for your lawn, it's good for the farmers, it's good for the ranchers. They need the rain. It may be tough on you if you go outside because you got to use the umbrella, you may get splashed, you may get a little bit wet, but there is a positive side to that. So, yeah, I try to emphasize the positive aspects, even what some people call bad weather. Other people might call it good weather. It just depends on your point of view.
Okay. Two more things. The Fox News Channel talked with Bill O'Reilly bullying his guest and telling them to shut up. Brit Hume and Chris Wallace putting a conservative spin on goings-on in Washington, and how the Fox News Channel is all conservative, and while the Fox Network is all liberal. Have you ever experienced that, seeing that you're the Fox affiliate?
It's such a different scope, what they do versus what we do. Sure, we are linked with maybe some of their content in that all the Fox affiliates can send video from a breaking news story to Fox News in New York, and we all have access to it and we can cherry pick it. But when you get into the shows, Bill O'Reilly's not paid to deliver the news. What he's paid to do is deliver his opinions and his commentary. We're not paid to deliver our commentary. We're strictly paid to deliver the news. So there's definitely a difference. I think sometimes viewers don't always see the connection, but not so much a connection. For instance, here's an example. We had folks who were upset with Bill O'Reilly, and they showed up out here on Wooten to picket Bill O'Reilly. Well, you can picket out here all you want. Bill O'Reilly's not in this building, and we have no affiliation with Bill O'Reilly. So sometimes I think folks don't necessarily get it, but there are a lot of folks that do know. We are the local affiliate, and we're in charge of giving you the local news.
And how does the Fox News Channel compare to the local Fox News, Steph?
I would also say it doesn't have a lot to do with our daily operations here. We are just a bunch of local folks going out and reporting the news locally, and we're pretty far removed from Fox News there.
Yeah. And Terry, what do you think how it's different from the Fox News Channel and your local Fox station here?
Well, from the point of view of weather, they're covering the national weather. They don't really take the time. They can't take the time to look at the forecast for Colorado Springs or Pueblo or Southeast Colorado. So you can watch them. That's fine. They give you the broad view of what's going on around the nation. But if you want to know what it's going to be like when you step outside tomorrow morning, you're going to watch us because you need that local forecast.
Yeah.